It wasn't a race, but we finished fourth.
Yeah.
Nobody's counting.
Yeah, no one's counting.
Nobody's counting, but we left in ninth and finished in fourth, and that's what's really important.
Nice.
Yeah. The downside of this year is I had less to do because I didn't drive. And so last year, I was pushing the car and walking next to it. And it was like a more interesting experience. Although after like hour 6, we were kind of over it. Yeah. But with this, I went, I'm just like looking at real estate now.
Yeah. Hyundai has a system that works fundamentally perfectly, and all they've got is the sound of an Elantra N with a straight pipe. You know what I mean?
Hey, so welcome back to another episode of In the Driver's Seat with ABS. You join us in our museum during our JDM and Beyond exhibit. I had to look at the wall again because I always forget what the title of the show is. But you join us with some returning guests. We have Matt Farah and Zack Klapman, who have very nicely come down and participated in our veteran car tour for the second time. And I know your experience was a little bit better this time. Your car worked much better.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming out, guys. We really appreciate hanging out with us.
Yeah, it's a good time. We love the really old.
Yeah.
There's a period of old. There's a period of old that's like old but not fun, and then when you get old enough, it gets fun again.
Yeah.
You know. So the 1902 Yale was all right. It was good.
So what was, for those that don't know, what was the driving experience like of something like that?
Well, it could go like the speed of traffic. So that.
Yeah, you were cooking yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, the when we did this the first time in the 1902 Packard that was not running right.
Correct.
It ran great during our test drive, and then it immediately went to hell the second we crossed the start line. So that's
how it goes.
So we were like literally like a rolling chicane, at 5 miles an hour for 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
And what we learned yesterday was that actually plenty of time is allocated for lunch when you get there at the time you're supposed to get there.
And it's warm too. You get it right.
Yeah, the food's still warm.
Yeah. So the Yale was much more like a car.
Right.
Just you could do things that you would do with a car.
It also felt more stable and buttoned up, even with the engine problems of our last trip. The car wiggled a lot more when you hit some of the potholes here, and it just kind of danced around the whole time. And the Yale just tracked straight, rode fairly normal.
Yeah.
And that car has been,
is a great car.
That car's on the London to Brighton, and it's one of our chairman's favorite cars. So we wanted to make sure you had the proper experience. And what I find,
it wasn't a race, but we finished fourth. Nobody's counting.
No one's counting.
Nobody's counting, but we left in ninth and finished in fourth, and that's what's really important.
Nice.
Yeah.
what I always love about these early cars, like you were saying, is they're all so different. But once you're past that intimidation factor and you really get a feel for how they run, and they're really not too difficult to drive, and they're very impressive. It's crazy impressive how these cars, I mean, obviously today's cars are quite different, obviously with being 2024, but it's still that same experience in a way.
Well, once you've driven a lot of stuff,
right,
things are different, but also they're the same. It's like when we drive like a lot of supercars and stuff like that, and like the difference between a Ferrari 296 and a McLaren 720, yes, there's like nuances of difference,
sure,
but they operate in like basically the same way. There's standardization, and like it's funny that we're in a room with a bunch of JDM cars right now because the first thing, like the novelty that I like of driving on the right hand side of the car is like I need to actually think about what my hands and feet and eyes are doing in a new way.
Yep.
And once now I've like trained myself to do that to where I don't have to think anymore to drive a right-hand drive car. I can drive a right-hand drive car on a racetrack flat out, and it's the same. And like, so okay, what's the next thing I can train my body to do? And so it's actually the training of your body to drive this thing where the controls are really strange and new that I find the most interesting.
Right.
You know?
I know that makes perfect sense. And you find, and I found at least, a lot of these events there is a mix of people, but there's a group of people who have a lot of cars, and they have supercars, every era of car, but they all find themselves oftentimes saying this is their favorite because, like you said, they have the ability to drive so many different variations of things, and the more modern you get, the more similar cars are. But when you have this era of car, you have to tinker with them constantly, and one car is going to be completely different from the next. So it is an interesting thing, when you are exposed to so many different kinds of vehicles.
Right. Go ahead.
I think it parallels a lot of hobbies where you start out with what is like mainstream, interesting, and cool.
Yep.
And then if you stay with the hobby, you go deeper and deeper, to like the vinyl record, and then the B-side vinyl record, or like, people that get into beer,
cameras,
and then they drink sour beers and stuff like that. You're like, whoa, sour beer, what this tastes like garbage. You're like, yeah, but your palate is so like active, refined, and experienced. You want something new to kind of spark it.
That's exactly right.
So once for me, like once I actually train my body to be able to operate the machine without having to think, and now I can just drive. Like actually, by the time we came back down, as we were going through Ocean Drive at the very end, like we were having conversations in the car that had like nothing to do with the car.
Just driving.
I was no longer thinking about the car, and we were just going at the speed you would drive that. Like we're just going 30.
The downside of this year is I had less to do because I didn't drive. And so last year, like I was pushing the car and walking next to it, and it was like a more interesting experience. Although after like hour 6, we were kind of over it. But with this, I went, I'm just like looking at real estate now.
Yeah. He was on like Redfin, like
no,
Cliffside.
How much can I pick up a Yale for?
I know it is funny because we had another owner who was driving a curve dash, and he lives over the bridges, and he's like, I may just drive it home. Like you get so used to it after driving it for 50 miles, like you could go down to Greenwich and visit your family.
Yeah, like at some point I was like, let's just drive this back to the airport. Like we're all right. And then for 5 minutes I was like, maybe I want to buy one of these. And then I was like, no, I can just drive Nick's anytime I want. I could literally call this museum anytime I want and be like, can I drive an old car? And they'll be like, yeah,
we'll send it to you. No problem.
As long as we can film it.
You drove the Oldsmobile. How'd you like that?
Dash. Well,
Tiller steering.
The curve dash was fun. I've driven it around, but I haven't really driven it extended time. And that was, the 04 curve dash. And the thing was surprisingly fast. I caught up to...
It weighs like 800 pounds.
Yeah, it's like 3 horsepower and 2 speeds. It's like a lawnmower, high and low. And, by the time we got almost halfway to the bridge, I had caught up to the front, the front cars. I mean, it's...
So were you guys racing? Did you see each other?
We chased a different curve dash.
They were chasing the other one.
Dude, we would have if we didn't have that whoopsie.
Yeah, in the beginning.
In the beginning, we would have. We definitely would have.
Oh no! I had the whoopsie. It's
not a race, but we definitely would have won.
You get it. It is. And you know what I also enjoy about driving these old cars is that the early cars is that there's a group of people on the road. Some just don't even notice, but then there's a group that totally yield to you. They love what you're seeing. And you can also you kind of drive like you always want to. You can, stop signs are kind of stoptional, like
stoptional. How have we never used that word?
That's a great word. That's a term.
That's a very good
term. You got to use
that's a good
there's
word.
No blinker. You kind of just... Yeah, you kind of just
I might put that on a T-shirt.
Well, the key is if there's
with a fucking Tesla, and a guy on his phone.
Yes.
Just give
well,
us
the thing is, the rule is if there's no white outlining the stop sign, it's stoptional.
Wait, what?
Just roll it. That's the deal.
But the people really appreciate it. Like we're going over the bridge and you need momentum. I had a red light and 2 cars on the other side with greens just let me go right through. Like people, it's just
we would on the bridge last year.
Oh, that was.
I think people were not happy with us because it was.
We have a picture. I think we mentioned it to you.
The most epic picture.
There's a picture.
That's like the photo of the.
Oh, dude, I have that. I have that framed
with
this big
with the traffic.
Yeah. I have it framed in a. I think it's a 30 by 40 at my office.
Oh, that's great.
It's sick.
Great.
This year we'll have one of you cooking down the bridge with no traffic.
Yeah, with flames coming out the exhaust.
As we were going back over the bridge, there were some very slow, because it's one lane each way. There were some slow cars coming opposite that had traffic built up behind them, and we expected to see like scowls on the faces of the people behind, but they were actually, it seemed like pretty happy to see this like spectacle going on.
Some of them do.
And it seemed like there was a decent amount of people that were lined the route of the tour as well, like for, Rhode Island on a Sunday morning in the off season, and everybody was smiling and happy to see those cars.
I think people treat these like those ugly dogs. Where it's like,
that's
wow,
cute.
What is that?
Dude, wild.
Yeah, way to take that outside.
I get a closer look at this thing.
I still didn't. The 2-lane each way. That road was not my favorite.
No, that's rough.
No,
when you are
do
driving these cars on an ocean drive on a single lane road or through those residential neighborhoods, like no problem, like it's cool. Yeah. But like when you're getting passed by like super duties and stuff, you're like, there's so many ways to die doing this.
They're actually trying to change that road into a 3-lane because it's so dangerous.
Oh, really?
There's been so many accidents on it.
Yeah, adding a 3rd lane, that'll help.
No, I mean they're going to make it. They're going to make the center a turning lane.
Oh,
smart.
Oh, that's probably a good.
Because it's that bad.
Yeah.
But this year in particular, we had the most amount of cars that we've had, and we've probably had we did have the most significant cars that we've had, from the 1898 Moors, which it's the first time it's been in North America, and probably, according to Evan, the caretaker of the car, the oldest car in America that runs on gasoline. And it's that V4 with independent, fuel throttle bodies. The thing was just truly incredible, way ahead of its time. To the 1901 Panhard, which won the very first endurance race in the United States, as well as the very first races on Aquidneck Island. So
wild.
It was just crazy to see this grouping of cars, and I think...
Well, and it's really wild because from 1898 to 1907, there's an immense progression, and I think Evan said, every year is like a 10-year more
Every
modern
year is 10
progression.
years.
And, you look at the 1901 cars, even a curve dash that's doing, 25, 35 miles an hour and moving along fine with traffic to, the 1907 Fiat that was with us. I could probably do, 65, 70 miles an hour at full throttle. It's amazing how far they came.
The interior, full interior,
all the space, full top.
Comfort and stuff like that.
And, you have your gas, brake, and clutch. It's a car today from 07. So, and the Fiat being August Bush's car that he ordered new in 05. That was a
hell yeah,
car.
brother.
Yeah.
Was August Bush the Macho Man also?
He founded WWE.
And Hulk Hogan?
Yeah. Just a big beer guy, I guess.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun, and I hope you guys will come next year as well. We'll see.
It's a good time, like they say in Wayne's World 2. If you book them, they will come.
Right.
I think
that helps.
But I think if people live, within reasonable distance of this place, if you're into cars, you should come see it, because getting to stand there and look at the evolution of cars, like you said, only from 8 years, and it went from 6 different layouts in terms of controls, and then 5 years later you go, everyone realized this is the right way to do it. Everyone realized the gas pedal should be over here and the steering wheel can be on either side. It just happened really quickly.
It's almost, I think of it like the evolution of the cell phone. Everyone wanted to make a cell phone. With these cars, everyone was making some sort of vehicle in their garage or with a shed with 10 or 12 guys, and in 30 years that was narrowed down to just a number of companies, not
the attrition rate of companies was
incredible.
remarkable.
There's a Wikipedia page about defunct automobile companies. And the list just keeps going.
Thousands.
We were talking to Rupert, the Bottoms guy, yesterday, who's got a car in England that he does London to Brighton with. And I was like, "What is it?" And he was like, "It's a whatever." He said, "I don't know." And I go, "What is that?" And he goes, "My car is not just the only car left from this company. It is the only piece of evidence that this company ever existed at all."
Yeah.
And I go, wow, that is like SEO death. Any content you create about this will be instantly flatlined. Nobody's looking for it. Nobody cares.
Nothing. And you think about companies and you think about big warehouses and production lines and all this stuff, but the company was a garage, and it might have been 3 people, it might have been 10, but it was just they wanted to make a vehicle and see if it found success, so they could make money.
And the companies that made the cars weren't like car companies,
right?
No, they made
we drove
buggies.
the Yale, but the Yale was just like a thing made by this manufacturing company in Ohio. It wasn't like this company probably made like drill jigs or something. You know, they didn't make like
well, a lot of them
cars.
evolved from like bicycle companies turned motorcycle companies turned car companies.
Right.
That was a pretty common thread too.
Yeah, and a lot of them were French. The most advanced were French, which is also an interesting thing.
How the tables have turned.
Right. Panhard Moors, you know.
But some of the tech though, like that Fiat or the the car from 1898, like individual throttle bodies or the oiler that you could adjust. You could adjust by hand
stuff that we
how
have
much
today.
oil gets sent to different parts of the engine is super cool. I mean, just the things that they were able to make with, I guess, like a forge and maybe cast or something, and just hold that pressure together is so remarkable.
Yeah, Evan was saying, you know, about that Fiat, that it's not that they weren't like technologically advanced. It's just like in many ways they were limited by materials, by the metallurgy, by the ability to machine very precise things. But there was still a lot of like thought that went into stuff. Like the V4 and the Moors, like I'm guessing they weren't certain that individual throttle bodies would be the future of motorsport. It's just like, in hindsight, that seems like genius, but they might have just been throwing stuff at the wall. You don't really know.
Yeah.
But the Fiat, he said that they moved some of the weight to the middle for weight balance. So like they still understood physics, even though, and now we see that of course as the pinnacle. You put the weight in the middle, you put the engine in the middle, and that's the best platform for performance.
Yeah.
They just knew that would work according to the laws of physics.
Yeah, it's wild. And the roads, they were trails essentially. They weren't even roads, you know.
Yeah.
It's,
And these cars probably love the modern fuel that we're putting in them. It's like the gasoline back then
110
was
leaded,
pretty terrible.
We say that. Meanwhile, that they might have been designed to run on that.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm speculating. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that like Sunoco 101 is like what they like, but, but they might run better on garbage. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Everything loves Sunoco 101 when it's with us.
Yeah, why not?
Oh, is that a sponsor?
No.
Sorry.
Just fill all the cars with that.
No, just
all
like
the good
fill
stuff.
everything with race gas. Like that's what's up.
They did know what they were doing, though. I mean, it was almost like in the 70s with muscle cars. As you got through, the early part of the 1900s, bigger was better, bigger engines, bigger bodies. But they understood the weight management. They understood all the aspects of the car. And then, when it came to racing, they were like, okay, we'll just take all this weight off and then send it,
Yeah. And they couldn't do like revs, so they just did like enormous pistons.
Yeah.
The thing is like an 8-inch piston turning
Coffee can.
150 RPM, and it's making like 500 pounds of torque or whatever.
With a huge final drive gear.
Yeah. We have a Pung's Finch in our collection. I think it's a 1906, and it's a massive vehicle. And I think they made 5 of them. I don't know if there's more than one left.
It's on that Wikipedia list you were talking about.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's like the cover image.
Hashtag Pung's Finch.
Yeah. If you know,
Follow me on TikTok.
Yeah, you know. I think it's a 14-liter 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
It's the cylinder's the size of me.
Yeah. We went
You
to
jumping up and down.
We went to Goodwood last year, and we saw. I've wanted for years to see the Beast of Turin.
Oh, it's so
We just
sick.
saw that race.
Yeah, it's not like I don't even think that's the biggest, but what is it, 27 or 28 liters with an exhaust runner that's 3.5 inches
my
long.
God.
Like that's just a delight.
It's so tall. I mean, the
It is
vehicle
so
is
tall.
enormous.
You can sit there and just like grill hot dogs off the exhaust like all
that
day.
guy,
It's just fire.
Shmee did that with an Aventador, I think.
Of course he did.
Modern version.
I love the smell of hot dog toasted in
Lamborghini.
And
chroma flare wrap.
reduced back pressure, lost torque.
So yeah, here we are.
Has there ever been, not to shift gears, but has there ever been like a meet your heroes moment with a certain car where you were really excited to drive it and then you drove it and you were disappointed by it?
I mean, sure. We just the other day.
The 1902 Yale.
No, I mean, we filmed the video will be up by the time that this podcast airs. We filmed this Koenig
cool.
Evo competition,
Yeah.
which is a twin turbo Testarossa.
Yeah, those are wild.
Which is like insane. I mean, it's like the essence of 80s poster cars. And actually, to their credit, the thing made an extraordinary amount of power. I mean, the engine was really no joke. But everything else about it was not remotely able to handle, between the tires and the brakes and the shocks and and none of it, was able to handle the fact that this thing was making a crazy amount of power by even modern standards. I mean, if a company sold a car today with 600 horsepower, it would have like 15-inch, 8-piston brakes in the front. This had 10-inch single piston brakes.
Dangerous.
Which is just like not enough.
Keep it as a poster.
It's like what that 92 RX-7 has with 200 horsepower.
Right.
It's just not enough. And so it was interesting in terms of going down the rabbit hole of weirdness, but it was really the glue sniffing experience of that, right? I mean,
I agree. It was very exciting, but it was flawed compared to a vehicle that has more comprehensive abilities from that era or a new era, new ones. I think first time I drove an Aventador, I was a little let down. We were in the canyons. Remember, we were filming with Dave's car.
The early Aventadors were just not
understeer.
Good.
As soon as you touch the throttle, I went, "What is happening?"
Yeah.
But this is the car, and it costs all the money, and it's got all the press.
Look at it.
It sounds so good. And look at it. And then I went, "What the f*** is going on here?" I don't know if you could swear on the show.
They did ultimately solve that.
They did.
The SV and the SV or the SVJ and the Ultimate on the ones that the end run cars actually are very good.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, they were wildly disappointing.
I think kind of based on that topic, we're all blessed to be able to drive a lot of cool cars and gather our own opinions. How do you guys feel about, when a car comes out and like it's a press photo or, someone drives it but you haven't yet? How do you feel about the public just making opinions on cars without driving them?
My mortgage payments are dependent on that very thing.
I think the best example is like the new M2. I think when that came out, everyone was just beating the shit out of it.
Well, it's heinous looking.
Yeah,
exactly.
it's so ugly.
Yeah. But but what do you think of going back to his question?
Well, the people who said it was heinous looking are right.
Yeah, and then you drove
we
it.
agreed. I agree. I drove it and I was like, they're right. This is a heinous looking.
I think it's a bad example. Because we see that at first, like, it doesn't look shit.
I know. You killed that question.
Well, no, I think there's a couple of things. Like when it's aesthetics or it's design, that's subjective. So people can say whatever they want. But what we see a lot of today is when a car comes out with a new engine configuration versus its predecessor, or they hybrid it, or if it's an EV or something, and you see the audience go, "I will never drive a da-da-da.
Right.
This will never work because da-da-da." And you go, "Maybe, but wait till we drive it." Because then they're commenting on how the car is going to feel and how it's going to perform, and frequently they're wrong.
718 going electric.
I mean, I won't, and this is going to sound snobby, I won't listen to any other journalist that I'm not certain can't beat me around a racetrack. Can beat me around. If I know for sure they're faster than me, fine. I will listen to what you have to say. Beyond that, I won't. And it's nothing against any specific journalist that maybe isn't faster than me, but you better be really, really good at driving if I'm going to listen to you about this.
Right. That's fair.
And
that's a great take.
And so there's that, but I'm talking about with vehicle dynamic evaluations. I don't, you want to talk about trunk space or stereo or whatever, fine, okay, go ahead. But we try to not read reviews from other people, because if we know we're gonna, because it will cloud your judgment.
Yeah, you want your own opinion.
So even if there's someone whose writing I like or whose video I like, and they drive the car a couple weeks before I do, I try to not watch it or read it, because I want to be able to come to my own conclusion without. It's impossible to not be like, oh, but Chris Harris said this, and you go, I don't. If I come to the same conclusion, great. Yeah. If I come to a different conclusion, fine. It doesn't, but you don't want it to cloud your judgment. But what really is frustrating is when you drive something that is very cool and innovative, and people say things like, normally I'll take your word for it, but not now. Yeah. And it's like, well, what? Yeah. I don't understand. Like, normally we're this sort of super trustworthy, honest source, but now we're completely full of shit. Like, what happened there?
Yeah. Do you have like a perfect example of that?
Yeah, sure. The Ioniq 5N.
Oh, yeah. Everyone said that's
cool.
such a great car.
Dope.
The Ioniq 5N is amazing. Yeah. And the number of, I mean, just from an Instagram post, we haven't even put the video up yet. Yeah. From an Instagram post, there's no way what you're saying is true. Really? There's no way.
That's crazy to me. It's like, look at it. It's freaking hauling like the mail all day.
But like I drive everything, and I'm telling you this works. This works the way it's supposed to work, and you're just going, no, you're lying. It's not. It doesn't work.
Yeah, you're paid to say that.
And I know for certain that you have not driven it yourself. Because for certain, I was in the first group to drive it, and I'm just like lying for what reason? And would I make this up?
There's no benefit.
Yeah. So, that's one.
Did you get that with the? Oh, sorry.
No.
I was gonna say, did you get that with the Taycan Turbo GT at all, or not really?
I mean, there are a lot of people that don't care about electric Porsches and will never care about electric Porsches, and that's fine. But I mean, the Turbo GT was not. It's extraordinary in that it's fast and has a lot of grip and can go around a track, but it's not a whole new thing. It's just the evolution of what's out there. The Ioniq 5N is a whole new thing because it's trying to synthesize the engagement of a gasoline car. And so there are people who will say that it is not possible to successfully synthesize that. And I'm saying that actually it is. It is possible. And it doesn't mean it's perfect, but it means that there's a lot of things that you can do with it that you can't do with a normal electric car, and that it lies to you so convincingly that even if you love gasoline cars and manual shifting and all that kind of stuff, within a very short period of time, you don't really care that it's lying because it's doing such a good job of it, it doesn't matter. So
it's very interesting.
Yeah. It's the girlfriend experience, as it were.
Do they know what they have?
We can't do prostitution jokes on this show?
It just took me a second. It took me a second to know what you're talking about.
Do they know what they have?
They know what they have.
Yeah, do they know how good it is?
I think they were... the people at Hyundai are very young, and they're very excited because they actually said to me, this was very funny, they said, we have no heritage, we have no history, there's no one expects anything. It's not like, well, Hyundai is known for this, therefore you must do this. So it allows them to do basically anything they want.
That's cool.
Which is very freeing.
Yeah.
But also they really went for it with this system. And if they missed by a little bit either way, it would have been incredibly hokey and dumb. You had to really, really get it right in order for it to be good. Fortunately, it seems that they have.
Well, like their team that's been working on the N program for years clearly have done homework and they're experienced in that, and they've done such a good job of delivering those cars and refining those that I feel like they are as informed as any of us in what would be good and bad and what would feel real and not real. And so like it's like they had our brains, our collective car enthusiast brains, because they are car enthusiasts, and then they just use that to refine the technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like they're kind of in like a golden era, or starting a golden era for their company, especially with successive sales and everything else.
Well, if everybody else building EVs, especially sporting-oriented ones, isn't watching this and going, oh, well, that's the thing that we need to be doing, particularly Porsche. Mm-hmm. I mean, if Porsche doesn't see that and go, we need to get that in there now, before we come out with this electric Cayman and Boxster. Yep. I mean, especially because Porsche has Porsche. I mean, they have, with the synthetic exhaust sounds and stuff, Porsche, and Alex Roy predicted this 5 years ago in a piece he wrote for The Drive, which is an amazing piece because Alex is a fucking genius. If Porsche needs to have historic sound packs, historic torque curves, historic everything that you can call up. And that electric Boxster, today it sounds like a 73 RSR. Tomorrow it sounds like the Moby Dick 935. Now it sounds like a 917. I mean, who else throughout history except maybe Ferrari has that kind of back catalog that they could call? Hyundai doesn't. Hyundai would have to make a deal with, Hyundai has a system that works fundamentally perfectly, and all they've got is the sound of an Elantra N with a straight pipe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't sound like Senna's McLaren. It sounds like a Hyundai.
Yeah.
And so, okay, but like, imagine Porsche did this, but you could call up any sound and power band from any Porsche throughout history.
Cool.
I mean, come on.
That would be wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not that far away. That's totally possible and reasonable.
I wouldn't have to make the noises on my own when I'm driving.
Right, yeah.
Do you think we're moving, I see all this talk about, Toyota staying with hybrids and committing to hybrids. Do you think more companies are going to do that, or do you think at some point it will be an electric future?
I mean, we're seeing a dip in EV sales this year a little bit.
Yeah.
It's slowed.
They tried to push the product before the infrastructure.
Yeah.
And the product, is still very expensive. Mm-hmm. It still has the secondary market of EVs is really, really bad. Mm-hmm. And you have a lot of sort of conservative leaning people who don't want them for, political sort of purposes. You know what I mean? However you want to phrase that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's fine. And we predicted several years ago that when they said, EV mandates, ban internal combustion. We said that gets your front page news. In a couple of years, they'll realize it's untenable. They'll roll that back. It'll be on page 23B, of the New York Times. It won't make the headlines, but that's sort of what happens with a lot of stuff. Cafe regulations, it happened. I mean, all those kind of things. Mm-hmm. We'll probably get there eventually. Yeah. Eventually, but in the meantime, for most people, for most cars, a hybrid, particularly a plug-in hybrid, offers a lot of the benefits of an EV, but without having to wait around for the infrastructure.
Yeah. I stumbled upon a really odd video actually last night. It was a video, I think it was in the Netherlands. It was like an express battery swap station.
Sure.
So they were using this generic electric car. Maybe it exists, maybe it doesn't, but they pull it in, they remove the battery, they put another battery in. The only thing I got from this is we are not there yet. Like, for me to sit here,
Tesla ran a scam. They ran a scam in California.
Really?
To get federal or state money was the battery swap scam.
It was federal. When I joined,
were you behind it?
No, when I was there in 2012, when this was a big thing, and they Elon did a whole video of it happening, and timing it against I think it was a Lexus filling up. I mean, it was all bullshit.
It was all it's wild. It's detailed very, very carefully in Niedermeyer's book, Ludicrous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Tesla did it, but then there's also been startup companies. This is not the first startup company that has said we will be the hot swap place. There was Tesla, there's other ones, and every couple of years someone goes, maybe this will be the idea, but you'd have to get every OEM to agree to a certain kind of construction with their cell and their platform and their floor. Yeah. Right. And I don't think you're going to do that.
The cop out for Tesla was that the batteries were so expensive. How would you claim ownership of the battery? Yada, 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 all that sort of thing.
But they did take the state or federal money for presenting the technology. They weren't like, actually, no, this won't work. So you guys hang on to your money. They're like, okay, we'll take that money, and here's why this won't work.
I've seen many batteries in the service center come out, and there's getting a battery out is an hour process. Yeah. It's, it's not
I mean, you could design an entire car around a hot swappable
That's what you
battery,
could do,
but
but the
you
car-
do run into that problem you just said, which is that if someone owns their car,
Yeah.
they want to own their battery.
Yeah, it's
The cost of a Tesla is the battery. I mean,
it.
there's the difference.
It's certainly not the panel fitment or
When the difference between when I was there, when the performance Model S came out, the P85D, the difference between the P85D and a base, at the time 60D, was an extra motor, and that was it, pretty much.
Yeah.
The larger battery.
Yeah.
But the car was exactly the same. So the margins obviously were much higher for the performance car, but the same car. I mean,
well, also like if you hot
battery's
swap the
everything.
battery and now the battery you've had put in is older,
Right.
and suddenly your range goes from 380 miles to 320, like that would be a huge argument at a
how do you
swap
warranty
shop.
it? How do you do? It's just
It'd be
not,
too messy.
But you save 30 minutes. Charging.
there is I mean, look, the charging speeds, it is a big deal, right? And people don't want to be inconvenienced. I mean, they just don't.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think for the time being, a plug-in hybrid that has maybe a 10 kilowatt pack, a 12 kilowatt pack,
Yep.
it gets you 40-50 miles of electric driving, and
Yep.
then you've got a gasoline engine that can.
We were just in England. Our rental was a
330E.
F31 330E plug-in hybrid, and it was like, this is like the perfect
It was
vehicle.
awesome.
Yeah, we're driving a rental Jeep Grand Cherokee hybrid right now, which is not very good.
Good update.
I've driven lots of great plug-in hybrids. This one stinks.
what makes it so bad?
I mean, the idle it's like little stuff, but the idle just seems very unrefined, and when the engine kicks on at weird times, and then it's just got this bad sound. And my comparison is my fiance just bought a new RAV4 hybrid, so I go, okay, well that thing sounds like there's a very quiet motor buried very far away, and it just comes on at more natural times. And this thing, it sounds like we're driving around a 2-liter powered Grand Cherokee that's struggling to move it around.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Afterthought.
I don't
It's like
think
nuanced stuff.
I don't think the Jeep hybrid technology is matured yet.
Right.
Some companies are doing a great job with it, whether it's Volvo or some of the European companies or Toyota, obviously, and then other companies are not doing the.
Well, the Toyotas is completely intuitive.
I mean, they've just been doing this for so long.
Yeah, and it's
you know?
just so smooth. You don't even realize it's there if you're not looking to pay attention to it. But
Yeah, the Jeep one, it's not great, but in general, I mean, it's. I convinced my father. My father's had. He's retired now, but he's had 3 Cayenne turbos in a row. He had like an 04, and then he had like an 11 or a 12, and then he had a 17, and he was going to order the new one. And I said, Dad, look at the hybrid. Consider the hybrid, because you never go full throttle in your Cayenne turbo. You're driving it around at 10% throttle all the time.
Yeah.
You don't need the power. And I talked him into it, and at first he was like, it doesn't feel as powerful. Then I showed him, how to use the modes and and now he's like, I haven't put gas in this thing in 4 months, because he drives it 30 miles a day, not even, and he's just never using gas, and I showed him, okay, when you want power, put it in sport, I don't know if it had sport chrono on this one, but I said, turn the knob all the way to the right. Oh, now it's like 400 and something horsepower. It goes pretty good.
It's crazy. My buddy Larson, his mother has an Escape hybrid, and she works 3-5 miles from the house. They never put gas in the vehicle. It's like you never have to.
That's why you don't need the EV. You have the small battery pack.
Right.
You can, like Toyota said, they can make 10, 20 hybrids using the same amount of minerals and everything as they could making one EV.
Yeah.
So you get 20 people driving cleaner cars, but also if you need to fill up quickly, you can buy gas.
Yeah, if you need to go anywhere.
Yeah, because public charging, if you have to do that, is also very expensive at
Yeah.
times. So
it's all the
just seems like
benefits
the right recipe.
and very few of the drawbacks.
Yeah.
For regular cars. I mean, I understand you want. I'm going in a couple of weeks to Europe to drive the 911 hybrid. Is a 911 hybrid what we want? Is that what we want out of a 911? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll execute well, I'm sure it'll be a quality thing, but the Panamera hybrid and the Cayenne hybrid are the best variants of those particular platforms. But do we want that out of a 911? Right. I don't know. But for regular cars, we can electrify cars faster without as much dependence on home charging, without as much dependence on DC fast charging infrastructure, and drastically improve the efficiency of everyday driving in a much larger scale. Yep. Like Zach just said, you could build 10 RAV4 hybrids for the minerals used in one Tesla Model 3.
Yeah.
You know, and if you have 10 people that go from 25 miles per gallon to 50 to 100 miles per gallon, versus, you know, one BMW 330 that then is off the road in exchange for one electric car.
Yeah.
You've spread that out in a much more a beneficial way.
Back to your 911 comment, the hybrid comment, my concern about 50 years from now, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you know, I think a 911 hybrid is great. I think it's a great idea. I think it'll be a fun car to drive, great car to drive every day. But my hope is that that's not our only option. I hope that, you know, there's some way through the government or whoever's allowing this to happen that we can still have, you know, normal combustion engines. Maybe it's a higher range thing. Maybe it's an upgraded price or something. But I hope that, you know, there's still options in which way you can go with these cars.
Yeah, I mean, we have to realize as like a population that small volume, highly focused sports cars that are not driven every day are really not causing our present situation.
Yeah.
And for a very narrow band of enthusiasts, you know, we don't want to like wreck all that.
Yeah.
For those folks who are driving a small number of cars, a small number of miles every year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love having an electric daily driver, and when I'm not driving that, I'm on a 70 mile per gallon Vespa. I like efficiency.
Yeah.
But I don't think that, you know, McLaren needs to be forced to make electric cars for a couple of thousand cars that are driven a couple of thousand miles a year. That's not a major contributor.
Yeah. Do you guys think there's a concern that there aren't enough new buyers for those cars? I mean, that's why, you know, companies have been kind of straying away from making the cool cars. It seems like, you know, Hyundai's gone out on a limb. They're making great stuff. The GR Corolla's a great car. You know,
wait, what do you mean they're pulling back from making the cool cars?
Well, I think that a lot of companies, you know, the manual's dying. There aren't enough buyers for it. You know,
right?
Do we think there are going to be enough buyers for enthusiast cars in the future, or do you think everyone's kind of going to conform?
Well, the problem is, cars are getting expensive. Right?
Yeah.
But they're actually not. Mm-hmm. We just did this math, and the price of a new Miata, an ND3, is actually less relative to inflation than a first generation. It's actually cheaper.
Mm-hmm. Same with M3s.
Same with BMW M3s. The current BMW M3 is actually less than like an E36 or E46 M3 compared to them. So you're actually getting more for your money. But wages have not kept up. So the market for those cars is shrinking faster than the value of the car. So it turns out there are more supercars and hypercars than ever. I mean, there's so many 15 different cars you can buy now that are over $1 million.
Easy, yeah.
And so you have a very small number of very rich people hoarding, buying everything, right? And you have regular people who want to afford one nice car, and they're struggling to do it. Right. And so we see a decline in affordable cars, not because the cars are getting so much more expensive, but because people are not being paid properly in order to buy them.
Right.
Yeah. And a hobby is passed on 2 generations.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you extrapolate that out, if someone was interested in cars, but they can't buy a fun thing, they give up on that hobby, they move on to something else. They have a kid, they introduce their kid to a different hobby because it's less expensive, and then that kid is not interested in cars. I mean, that's why like events like this thing, you know, we saw some kids that were looking at the cars yesterday, and they might get interested, it might spark that thing in them. And okay, maybe if their interest is in older cars because that's what's affordable, but then you will see the death of new sports cars that are, quote, affordably priced because they're not interested in them.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of different factors that contribute to that. I think people drifting away from manuals is there's more traffic than there's been before. People are sitting in it. They made dual clutches really fast and paddle shifted transmissions really fast. They're fun. They resemble race cars. And people go, all right, I enjoy this enough, and the car is fast, and I put performance above the engagement of the manual, so you just see people drift away from it. Ferrari was the canary in the coal mine for that.
Sure. Yep. I kind of disagree with that because I think the people who are into manuals are in our realm, the normal person aged, call it 21 to 40. And like Matt said, these people are struggling to buy a new car. So if a company is going to make a new car like that, we're going to struggle to get it.
But counterpoint is that there were companies that were selling both a paddle shifted transmission and a manual,
right?
And the paddles was outselling the manual.
Right.
So people are still saying, I want to buy this enthusiast vehicle,
right,
but I will choose the automatic or the DCT over the manual because life, etc.
Sure.
There are other companies that, look, from the stuff trickles from the top down, right? Now what we see...
Not everything.
Not
Continue.
everything. Yeah. It's not, ideas, yes. Money, no. And so now we're seeing Pagani's newest car is a manual. Koenigsegg's newest car is a manual-ish sort of thing. The 911 ST, which is the most expensive 911 variant, is a manual. And so the companies... There are Aston Martins, not the Valkyrie, the Valor. The Valor. Yeah. They're Aston Martin's second most expensive car is a manual, and so that there may be a resurgence in engagement, and the desire for engagement and the willingness to pay a premium for engagement. Gordon Murray's cars are only manual.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's as dead as other people think it is. Toyota was willing to bring back a manual Supra. I would bet that under pressure, Nissan brings a manual Nismo Z in the next 2 years. Mustang is committed to a manual. BMW, it's maybe not long for this world, but it's not totally dead.
Yeah,
and it may come back. It may actually come back, and we may, just like Hyundai did with the Ioniq 5N, we may find fully synthetic manuals.
Yeah,
where you could hit D and the thing is a silent electric car, and you could hit M and it's got a shifter and a clutch pedal. It is possible.
That's the Koenigsegg thing, right?
That is the Koenigsegg thing. Is either it could be a full automatic or a synthetic manual, which is
wild,
which is pretty crazy.
Have you driven one of those?
The Koenigsegg?
The 850?
No, they did. Christian said I can drive it when it is ready.
Right.
So they were still messing with it. But when I met him at the Quail and he was showing it to me last year, he started the car and stalled it in front of me to show that you could do it.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
when
cool.
it's in manual mode, it's a true manual that you can stall.
That's cool.
So, which I thought was pretty neat.
Yeah, that's wild.
What do you think is the hardest part of your job? You were talking. It's kind of a broad question, but you were speaking.
The self-loathing?
No. You were talking earlier about you don't want to watch another journalist's video because you want to maintain your own opinion. Is it that, or is it just the nitty-gritty of dealing with all of the production?
I would say it's the keeping up with the YouTube Joneses in a way that is feasible for us economically. Because you see, there are channels like come and go, and new trends come and go, and some channels are able to pivot, but there's economic reasons they're able to pivot behind the scenes, whatever that may be, or they're 23 and they have nothing else to do, and they can grind on a video for 3 days straight editing it. That's what we used to do. That's what Tom Morningstar, when he was the editor and DP of TST back in the day when we made long form videos. And at the time we were too early, so the money wasn't there from the rev share and the views weren't really there, even though our quality was up to television standards. So I think for me, it's that keeping up with what the algorithm wants, what the audience wants, in a way that allows us to also live, maintain other jobs, and like a lifestyle.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. It's that YouTube, although it has enabled people like us and many others to create a career in a thing that didn't exist 20 years ago, it's not a charitable organization. YouTube is in it for YouTube, and so they're going to do what is best for them, not what is best for us. And so it's sort of this ever changing trend of how do you make money doing it. It used to be the number of subscribers that you had mattered, and if you had people subscribe to you, then they would be sent your videos, and then they would watch them.
Now it's the notification bell and all that.
And that doesn't even matter. Now what matters is, how do you get YouTube to put your video in the For You suggestions or on someone's homepage? Because that's where all the traffic comes from. It used to mean that if you built up a big following on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, that you could use those platforms to drive people to your content. Now, those platforms have as their top priority keeping people on their platform.
Right.
So they actively don't want you to use that platform to promote your YouTube content. And what they do is if you're using keywords or phrases that indicate,
it'll block your views.
And this happens to us all the time. If an average Instagram post has 3,000 likes and 80 comments, but I use a word like check out the video, hit the link in bio, whatever, it'll have 200 likes and 3 comments in a way that's not just like, oh, well, people weren't interested in that. It's like a statistical impossibility that so few people would have liked or commented on such a thing. And so now it's like the whole job is to trick YouTube into sharing your video, because you can't even do things that'll get people who actively have said they want to see your stuff to see your stuff. So it's this sort of, whack-a-mole. It's a whack-a-mole game, which it's every bit of time you spend dealing with that is time you're not just creating good content.
Yeah.
Or you're doing something that you enjoy.
I mean, we see it all the time. I mean, we just hit 50,000 subscribers on our YouTube, and a lot of times there are things that are super successful for us, and then there are things that we put so much time into and we think it's going to be the greatest video ever, and then it just absolutely flops.
Yeah.
And it's the most frustrating feeling.
Yeah, it feels good, huh?
So maybe it
sucks.
You're learning, kid.
It is a self-loathing. You were right.
I mean, and then there's there's also the constant time versus money equation. You have to micromanage your time, which is no, people don't like to hear that doing something, even if you find it interesting, is literally not worth it, which sucks.
Yeah.
But like being here, for instance, we come to Newport because we like you guys, we like the Audrain, we like Donald, we like Nick, we like all the people we work with, and we like the novelty of driving these old cars. It's probably not worth it, because the audience doesn't give a shit about a 120-year-old car. It's not what YouTube follows.
Right.
But there's other reasons for doing it that we enjoy. And so there's, at least if you're going to do something that's not worth your time from a money perspective, at least it should be something that you enjoy doing. So fortunately, a lot of the things that we do, that we pretty much know what's going to be worth what's going to be a success or not most of the time. But the ones that aren't, we do for other reasons.
Right. We find that, especially with, the channel mainly being a lot of the Donald content, we find that the 50s cars for his demographic do so well for us. I mean, we had the video on a Pegaso that we did that gave us like 3,000 subscribers in 1 week, which was
great.
Insane.
Well, that's the other thing about YouTube is it's if you can find a sort of sub niche and feed that, then that will grow because the internet is a series of niches within niches, right? But if you cultivate an audience of people who are looking for 50s cars content, and now you start doing a Subaru 22B, they're going to go, "What's wrong with you? I didn't come here for
I don't
that."
like those cars.
It happens. I mean, it happens. And so it's almost better to have 10 different channels, one for each type of content.
Right.
We need our own ABS channel.
We were talking about that at dinner the other night, and I think you definitely do. Putting our podcast and our car reviews on the same channel was my idea. I will take responsibility for that, and it was a bad one. It was a fucking really bad one.
You got to try.
Shouldn't have done it.
That's how you learn.
It seemed like it would make sense at the time. Have all these people, give them more content. Nope. Wrong.
Yeah.
Very wrong.
Yep.
Start new channel from zero. Yeah.
Noted.
Okay. Yes, will do. Zoid.
Yeah.
Well, Matt and Zach, we really appreciate your time, and thank you so much.
Even though it's been wasted.
Even though your time is
the wrong takeaway.
Got to put the GTA waste.
The stuff that wastes our time is usually the most fun.
Yeah.
Good. That sounded wholesome, so I'll take it.
So we'll see you next year.
Yeah.
We'll see you next year.
Donald said we get an even faster car next year.
We'll keep them coming.
Yeah, you got to now we need to win.
Yeah,
I think
we
we
got
need
to
2
practice
cars.
our
Well,
dart
I think
game.
we might need.
We need 2
I think we
cars.
might need 2 cars.
I think
and
the parallel
Let's do it.
stories of like what's going right or wrong with your
Yeah.
car and my car would be very
Right.
interesting.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
do it.
yeah.
It's like
2
meanwhile on the side of the road. You know?
2 cars that definitely aren't racing each other.
But
It's not a race, it's a rally.
But thank you guys for having us because this was a very fun event. And like the main channel YouTube video won't perform well because no one's really searching for 1902 Yale unless they are Harvard students or something
Unless
like that.
unless they're applying
We're
to
trying
college.
to apply, but
Yeah.
like I think our podcast audience likes it because the stories that come out of these things are always interesting.
Yeah.
we should trick people. Should be like 10 ways to get into Yale.
Do it.
Oh, nice.
4 million views.
We could really get people with that.
There you
one.
go.
Yeah.
When all else fails, just lie.
And smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, and boy, is your camera setup excessive.
We are the world's
yeah.
largest podcast.
Yeah.
Very,
Ask
very
Magnus.
nice. Yeah. So many XLR inputs. Lots going on.
Oh yeah.
Thanks,
Dude,
Sam.
if
The
it wasn't
JDM
for
exhibit
Sam,
here is pretty dope, though. You guys got it going on.
Thank you. You can take the Sarah on the way out. We'll open the door for you.
I'd like to have.
We'll
I
have to
actually
jump
would
it.
like to have a go in that. It's cool. I'll take that home. I'll bring that back to Hannah.
Sure. There's some strong stuff in this room. There's not many cars in here, but I walked in yesterday to buy a hat because it was cold.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I went, wait, what the f-? And I started looking around. I started walking around taking photos. And I was like, oh my God, it's like Smokey
That's
Supers
exactly-
over there. And yeah, Falcon over here. Yeah, some good stuff.
There's good stuff in here
Good.
right now. Yeah.
I think it's a good mix of history and holy shit, there's an F1 car, and holy shit, there's my favorite Japanese car. So I'm glad. Good to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Good to hear.
It's a good era, this one.
Yeah.
But it is like, it's kind of funny for, I'm like 42, so like, a few of these cars are just like on sale
Yeah.
during my life.
Yeah, we get that
RX-7
too.
is like, my friends were driving those in high school.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
more self-loathing.
Yeah, and then we have the people who come in for our 50s shows who say the same thing. I
Right.
remember going to high school in this Cadillac.
Yeah.
It all comes around.
Well, thanks for having
Thank
us,
you guys again.
Appreciate it.
Very
As
much
always,
guys.
appreciated.
All right, we'll catch you in the next one.